everyone and welcome to my new video. If you are new here, my name is Thea and I make usually videos about bullet journaling, but today we are going to actually do something a little bit different. I decided to make a travel journal, so that's what we are going to do now. I'm using a bullet journal edition 2 notebook which has these beautiful cream color pages with 120 GSM paper, which means that it has a little bit of ghosting, which you can see from the pen test page. I don't mind the ghosting though, as it gives a little bit more of a vintage look to the pages, and I thought that would be perfect for my travel journal as I'm not going to be drawing as much here. By the way, I have a discount code in the description box if you are interested in this notebook, so definitely check that out. I think this would be perfect for bullet journaling as well, especially for beginners, as this notebook comes with a little pocket guide which helps you to get started. Anyway, now I'm setting up a cover page on the first page and I decided to go for a scrapbook style as I wanted this travel journal to be something super simple and not too time consuming, as I'm going to be focusing more on writing my travel memories here. I didn't plan anything beforehand, so this process was a lot different compared to how I set up my bullet journal, for example. For this cover page I used some scrapbook paper from Notebook Therapy along with some letter stamps and washi tapes. I try to link all the products I use in the description box so you can find them there if I forget to mention some of them. By the way, this video has two different parts as I thought it would be helpful to show you how I set up this travel journal before the trip and then how I use it after my trip, so that's why this video is quite long. I will leave timestamps in the description as always, so you can find the parts you are interested in seeing and you can skip some parts if that's something you want to do. After the collage was ready, I added a quote on the white paper and I chose this pretty basic quote which was fitting to the theme of this journal. For the finishing touches I added some washi tape on top and bottom of the white paper as it looked a little bit too simple otherwise. And that's basically it for the cover page. This journal has the key page ready for you, but as I use a little bit different keys, I actually added the different ones I used on the list as well. I also left the index pages empty as I'm going to use them to keep track of the different pages I have. Anyway, next we are making a packing list, which is a must-have for me as it makes the packing process less stressful. I'm always scared that I forget something important, so this packing list is super helpful. I used to have it in my bullet journal as well, but I thought it would be more convenient to have it in my travel journal now that I actually have one. I used the same map washi tape to cover the printed future log text on the top, and I thought the washi would look nice behind the header as well. By the way, I'm going to use a pencil when I'm using this packing list because then I can erase the marks after my trip and use the spread again for my next trip. That way I don't have to set up a new packing list for each trip, which saves a lot of time. Now I'm just writing all the different items I could need for traveling, and I speed up this footage quite a bit as this video turned out to be quite long. I'm going to do 2 different flip throughs in this video so you can see the end results better. Next I'm setting up a spread where I can keep track of places I've been and also write places I would like to visit. I got the idea for this layout from Amanda Rach Lee as she made a few this kind of foldable weeklies. I thought this idea would work really well with this spread too, as I'm going to add a map behind the folds. By the way, this can make your journal a little bit chunky, so keep that in mind if that bothers you. Now that the folds are all glued in place, I'm attaching the map to my journal, and I printed this from the website you can see on the bottom right of this map. At this point my glue roller actually broke, which was very tragic as it was time to use my sad little glue stick which almost ran out and actually later fell out of the stick. I've used up one glue roller like this and didn't have any problems with it, so I don't know what happened this time as I just bought the roller. I'm definitely going to try a different brand next time, so hopefully this won't happen again. Let me know if you have any recommendations. Now I'm adding this map washi tape on the folds as I thought it would make this spread a little bit more interesting, as this now reminds me of the Marauders map in Harry Potter. I hope that I spelled that right. I've actually read the books in Finnish as that's my native language, and I was also very young when the books came out. It was so cool to read them and then wait for the movie to come up. Anyway, I'm just gluing some scrapbook paper on the empty sides with my broken glue stick, and this scrapbook paper was quite thick, so I don't know if that was the best choice for the spread, but I think it looks nice. On the right side I added another paper where I can list the places I would like to visit in the future. I would love to have a road trip to Norway sometime in the future, so that's definitely going in my list. Let me know which are your top 3 places to visit in the comments. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I will color the places where I've already been on the map inside the folds. Next I'm setting up a simple planning spread for my trip to Berlin. I started off by writing the title with calligraphy and then went over the top parts of the letters to make a gradient. This was a nice way to make the header stand out a bit more as I used quite a light color for it. I thought it would be nice to have a list of different restaurants, cafes and other things to check out, so it's easy to flip back to this page when I'm in Berlin, and I can also see which places I've already checked out on my previous trip. That way I don't forget the names of my favorite stationery stores, for example. By the way, if you have been to Berlin, I would love to know your favorite places there or which things you would recommend to check out. My sister lives there, so I'm going to be traveling there more often, so I would love to add your recommendations to this spread. Anyway, here's a flip through of the beginning pages of my travel journal. I like how this turned out, even though the style is quite different compared to my bullet journal, but it was actually really fun to experiment with these spreads, even though I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. These spreads were pretty quick and easy to set up, so I think they would be perfect for beginners as well. You can use items you already have at home, like some old book pages and stuff like that. Anyway, next we are moving on to the second part of this video, which is all about journaling, and I will show you some clips I filmed in Berlin as well. Hope you enjoy them, and I will be back with the voiceover soon. This part was actually filmed in Berlin, so that's why the setup and lighting looks a little bit different. At this point I had been there for 4 or 5 days I think, and I wanted to write down some memories so I don't forget them. I started off by writing the header and used a gradient technique again. Because I've never had a journal like this, I wasn't really sure how I should approach this, because I, for example, wanted to add pictures to the spreads, but I could print them only when I get back home. My bullet journal is usually very structured, as that's what works the best for me, but that didn't really work with this travel journal, as it would have felt a little bit weird to make a weekly spread, as I already have that in my bullet journal. So I ended up writing just about the first days in Berlin without having any kind of plan, and I also decided to attach this train ticket to my journal as well for decorations. Then I filled up the rest of the page with writing and decided to make the rest of the pages at home, where I have more stationery available. When I got back home, I printed some pictures I took on my trip and I made sure to make them in different sizes so the spread would look a little bit more interesting. I printed these on sticker paper so I can just cut them and stick these into my journal without struggling with glue sticks and rollers again. If you want to print pictures to your journal, I would highly recommend using sticker paper as it was a lot quicker. I just used some sticker paper that I found at a local craft store. After cutting the photos, I organized them by the day I took them so I don't accidentally mix up the days. I want to write something about each day, so that's why I did this, but you could also stick your favorite photos in your journal and then write about the memories without worrying about it too much. I decided to add a couple of photos of the first days in Berlin on the page on the right, so the spread would have a little bit more decorations and it wouldn't look as structured and stiff. Finally, I just wrote about some memories of the moments when I took the photos and used a couple of different fonts just for a change. On these days we went to the Mall of Berlin where I bought a couple new pens from a cute craft store. I decided to swatch these pens on the bottom of the spread because it was looking empty and I didn't have any more things to write about. I felt like the spread needed more decorations and that the washi didn't suit the pink color of the header, so I decided to change it to a pink grid one that was a better match for the header. I've had this grid washi for quite a while now, but I haven't used it for my bullet journal because I felt like it was too bright for it. Setting up this travel journal was a good way to use stationery that I usually don't gravitate towards, and I also experimented more with the colors, which was a lot of fun. For the finishing touches, I just added these cute flower stickers which I bought from OchMonika last year. I really love her style and will leave a link to her Etsy shop in the description so you can check it out. And that's basically it for this first journaling spread. As you saw from the clips, we went to the Charlottenburg Park, which was beautiful and there were lots of pretty flowers everywhere. I also really like the architecture there. After walking in the park, we headed to a restaurant called Vegan, which I highly recommend if you like vegan Asian food. Anyway, I started off setting up the spread by attaching the photos first in this journal because I felt like it would be easier to write about the memories afterwards, so I didn't have to worry about covering the text with photos. Then I again wrote the header with calligraphy and used a brown marker for it just for a change. These markers that I'm using are Tombow dual brush pens and these are really great for big lettering like this. For the other lettering, I used Crayola supertips and capital letters to achieve more of a playful look as I didn't want the spread to be too structured or serious. Then I started writing about the memories again, which most of you probably can't understand as I'm writing in Finnish. If I wouldn't share this journal online, I probably would write the headers in Finnish as well, but at this point I'm really used to writing them in English because I do that for my bullet journal as well. I feel like hand lettering is actually sometimes easier in English as there aren't A and Ö letters which look like A and O but have these little dots on top of them. I feel like the dots always make the words look weird, so I struggle with those letters the most when lettering in Finnish. Anyway, I decided to add these kinds of drop shadows to the capital letters so they would pop a little bit more, and doing this made me feel very nostalgic as I used this kind of lettering style years ago when I hadn't learned calligraphy yet. I used the same lettering style to write about the restaurants we went to, but accidentally made a little spelling mistake which I had to fix with a white gel pen. There actually is a restaurant called Vidang in Berlin as well, which we went to on my previous trip, and they have delicious vegan burgers, so I would recommend checking out that as well. The thing I was most excited about this trip was actually the food. I've been vegan for many years now, and in some places it can be difficult to find food that is vegan. Berlin, however, is like a food heaven for vegans, as there are many vegan restaurants and also regular restaurants have good vegan options as well. Anyway, that's enough about the food, and let's continue with the spread. I decided to add drop shadows to the photos to make them stand out a little bit more, and it was also a nice way to add some more color. On Saturday we had fun game night with my sister and her roommate, so I wanted to draw some doodles related to that. We played Uno, which is one of my favorite games as we played that a lot when I was a kid. I couldn't draw the cards for my memory though, so I used a reference photo to draw that, but didn't sketch it beforehand, so it didn't end up looking perfect, but that's okay. We also played Yahtzee, so I decided to draw a dice next to the card, and I think I should have sketched this one out because it ended up looking a bit weird, but hey, this is what happens when you don't sketch. Although I've been drawing for years now, I definitely can't draw everything, especially without sketching it first. I feel like drawing is a skill that you can learn, but it takes some practice and patience like any other skill. And there's always room for improvement and new things you can learn about it. I would love to learn how to draw drawings without sketching them beforehand, so that's definitely something I should start working on. For the finishing touches, I added some pink and brown washi tapes, which went well with the colors of the headers. I also added these teardrop shapes next to the headers, and later some loose swirls which were inspired by Amanda Ridgely. Super simple, quick and easy, which was really nice. Next, I'm writing about Sunday, which was the day when we went to 2 different museums, which you didn't see because I wasn't sure if I could film there. Because it was the first Sunday of the month, the museums were actually free, which was nice. For some museums you had to book a time slot beforehand, and as most of those were already booked, we went to 2 museums which you didn't have to book in advance. In the evening we went to a park which had a lot of beautiful roses and a lookout spot. Anyway, I decided to use blue as my color palette for this spread because I don't really use it in my bullet journal, and I have some blue stickers and washi tapes which I wanted to use up. I used a thinner nib of the Tombow dual brush pen to write the names of the museums we went to, and this time I used a printed writing but went over the letters twice to make them look a little bit different. Oh, and I also added a drop shadow with a black fine liner to the main header so it would stand out, and I drew it on the right side of every line, if that makes sense. Adding this drop shadow used to be very difficult for me because I always accidentally messed it up by drawing it on the wrong side. If that happens to you and it doesn't look quite right, you can always outline each side of the letter and then nobody knows what happened. For the decorations, I added these circle stickers from Notebook Therapy as I thought the colors were perfect for this spread. On the empty spaces, I added some washi tape that my sister gave to me last Christmas, and I love how it has some gold shine in it. Lastly, I drew some random lines and doodles with a grey brush pen. On the page on the right, I wrote about the day I went to Victoria Park. I read that there should be a waterfall, but unfortunately it had dried up or it wasn't working, but the views were still beautiful. It was a super hot day and it looked like it might rain, but luckily it didn't. It might seem like the only thing I did in Berlin was to explore different parks, and that's kind of true. I just love nature, and as the weather was really summery and warm, I wanted to spend as much time outside as possible before going back home to rainy Finland. Anyway, I decided to use blue colors for this spread as well, because I thought this spread would look a bit more cohesive in that way. I started off by writing the header and then arranging the photos. I had to leave 2 photos out so I would have some space to write as well, and I actually put those photos in my bullet journal instead. When I was writing the name of the Victoria Park, I actually made a little spelling mistake, which I had to fix with a white gel pen later. I feel like these kinds of mistakes happen more often when you don't plan the spreads beforehand, but luckily this one was easy to fix. I really wanted to use this flower photo that I took, even though it didn't match the blue colors, and because it was too big too, I decided to cut out the background so it would look more like a sticker. For the decorations, I used the same circle stickers and washi that I used on the left page, so the spread would be nice and cohesive. I really like how the spread turned out, and I also love the blue colors, even though I don't usually gravitate towards that. The washi tape also reminds me of my sister, so I think it was a good choice for this spread. Anyway, let's move on to the last spread I'm setting up in this video. I didn't really film anything with my camera on this day, as I was just exploring some stationery stores and filming there would have been too awkward for me. I wasn't sure which color I wanted to use for this spread, so I chose a safe option and went with this light brown color. As you can see, there's a little bit of ghosting from the previous spread, but you can barely notice that, so it didn't bother me. I was really surprised how well this paper held up, even though I layered the markers quite a bit for the headers. Anyway, I went to 2 different stationery stores on this day, and these are the ones I went to on my previous trip as well. The photo was taken in Louisban, which is a really lovely small stationery store, and I think you can order something there online too. I didn't buy anything this time though, as I got overwhelmed by the different choices and the huge Washi collection. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but sometimes when there's a lot to choose from, I can't make the choice and I just end up buying nothing and then regret later that I didn't get anything. Sometimes making a decision is difficult. Anyway, I added some stickers and washi from the notebook Therapy Vintage Rose collection, which had some browns and pinks that matched well with the markers. I also added some swirls and doodles with the markers to fill up the empty spaces, and then decided to add a drop shadow for the header as well. And here's the final flip through of the pages I set up in the second half of this video. I really like how this turned out, and I think you can see how I got the hang of it after making the first spread. Adding the photos in place first really helped with that, and it was nice to try out something different compared to my bullet journal spreads. I think this shows that you don't always have to spend hours and hours to make everything look perfect, and going with the flow was actually quite relaxing and fun. Hope you found some new ideas or inspiration from this video, and make sure to leave thumbs up and a pink flower emoji in the comments if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!